All right. So finished my auto draft, and we're back now. We're gonna take a look at our lineup and some of the things that we can do to manage the team throughout the season. Um, some interesting, just stats we can look at, and the waiver wire, things, trading, things like that. I'm back at the homepage for ESPN Fantasy, and there are a couple ways we can get to it. So right here we've got, I'm in several teams, so we've got all of them here. Again, if you go up to your profile picture, and the what you just saw me draft was my Beastly team. So I'm going to click on that. And now the phone app is going to look a little different, but all in all, it's going to have the same functionality. You can be able to do the same things. You'll just have to kind of figure out which one you're going to go back and forth from. For recording purposes, again, I'm on the computer for this. This is a lot easier in my opinion, a lot easier on the phone app to manage than the draft was. So from here on, I usually just use my phone. But if you like being on the computer and that's just as easy to access, then by all means. So anyways, so that's my team. Um, so you saw some of these people that I drafted in real time, and the rest of them, I auto drafted. So I don't even know or who I drafted really. Um, so it'll tell us the people we drafted first, essentially that would be kind of our starting lineup here in our starters section. So we can only have one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, a flex, which again is a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. In this case, we have a wide receiver in that position. And we have a whole team for defense and special teams, who, they score points. Well, I guess I'll get this point scoring here in a second to make sure you guys understand that. And then you got your kicker. We got several bench players. It appears I do not have a tight end backup, so which is fine. I can only play one tight end anyway, unless I really want to play a tight end flex. So I'll have to worry about when Sam Laporta goes on by. I'll have to pick up another one. But by then, I'm sure I will know which of these players, or even some of these guys, somebody will get injured, somebody will get traded. They won't live up to the preseason hype, so they won't do very well. That's just kind of what happens. Um, so some of these players I can probably drop, or one of them I can probably drop to pick up a tight end. I've got a couple of injury designations, some questionables here. There's several different injury designations that you can see. So you'll see Q, D, O, and IR. You might see SSPD. Q means questionable. They're not really sure. It's kind of day to day. Doubtful would be D. So it's like 90% they're not going to play, but they haven't ruled them out completely. O is out. Out is different from IR because out means they're not playing this week. IR means is a specific designation that the team puts the player on in real life. And according to NFL rules, I believe it's 4 weeks minimum they have to sit out. So if you see a player go on IR, you're not going to get them back for at least a month. A lot of times it's the people go on IR to get surgeries, or a lot of the time it's like a season ender. Not all the time. It could be just a really annoying injury that just won't go away. Things like that. So you just got to pay attention to the news on those players and figure that out. But SSPD is suspended, which brings us down to here, IR. So let's say that one of my top picks, like Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley. Oh, actually, I don't have a backup quarterback either. I'll have to figure that out. Anyways, let's say Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley are injured and they go on IR. So they're out for at least 4 weeks. But they're gonna come back, right? So it's like a broken leg or a concussion or a sprained ankle or Or maybe broken leg isn't a great. Maybe it's a broken finger. So things like this that are kind of lower on the injury scale in terms of long enough that they need to be put on IR, but short enough that they'll be able to recover and play again later in the season. A lot of times, actually, I can pick up. I'll click on them, and you can drop players, right? So a lot of times you can pick a player like Kenneth Walker. I could just drop him right now if I just didn't want him in my lineup anymore for whatever reason. He does have a season-ending injury, says he's not going to play anymore, or retires, steps away from football altogether, which is kind of rare, but something like that. Just isn't playing well, for whatever reason. I want to drop him. I just click this button and he's gone off my lineup. Then I'll have an open spot. I can put another player in there, and I can show you how to pick up players here in a second. Some players like Saquon Barkley, Josh Allen, are not droppable. It helps. Basically, these are such a high caliber player that once I drop him, he becomes what's called a free agent in the fantasy world, anyway. And so, any of the people playing in our league, any of the other team managers, is what they're called, could pick him up as part of the waiver. Which again, I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, it's kind of like they could pick up a really, really good player for free, and there's no trade or anything like that. So one team could really get stacked, and so it's kind of a way to keep things fair. You can't just dump all your really good players and let somebody else pick them up, and then skew those other teams in favor of themselves and all that kind of stuff. So you got to spread out the talent. So some players like Josh Allen are not droppable. So let's say he's on IR and we can't trade him because nobody wants him. We don't want to drop him because then somebody else will pick him up and use him later in the season. That's where we can move him into the IR. Only players that have an out or an IR designation can move into, so O or IR, can move into the IR slot. There's no length of time that they can stay there. They can stay there as long as they want. You can drop players from the IR if you feel like it. That opens up a bench space. So let's say Josh Allen goes on IR. I don't have a backup quarterback. I don't want to drop any of these players for whatever reason. I move Josh Allen to my IR, and now I have an open spot on my roster. Basically, I guess how I should say it is, we have 16 players. Players on your IR do not count toward that 16-player max. So I would still have Josh Allen in my lineup, but I would be able to basically have another player for free. I can pick up another quarterback, put him in my starting spot up here. Still have Josh Allen on my bench down here. When he comes off of IR, I would have to drop a player. So theoretically, I could drop that quarterback, or by then I might know which one of my bench players aren't doing very well. I can drop them and move Josh Allen back into my bench or into my lineup. That's how the IR works. So it shows us some of the NFL Week 1, who they're playing against. Here's the time. That's important, the time and the day, because the week starts on Thursday. There's Thursday night games, there's games all day Sunday, and then there's games Monday night. So Thursday is the beginning of the week through Monday. You can move players around freely whenever you like for that week, as long as one of the players in the move has not already started playing. So, for instance, we've got Saquon Barkley starting Thursday of week 1 at 7:20 p.m. As soon as Thursday at 7:20 p.m. Central Time hits, as soon as this game starts, Saquon Barkley is locked in wherever I have him. So if he's on my starters list, he's locked in. I cannot change his position. If for some reason he's on my bench, I cannot move him onto my roster, and bench players don't score you points. You'll hear, that'll be the biggest complaint you have is, oh man, I have 30 points on my bench because some player had a breakout game down here and had a really, really good day. You'll have, 30 points. Jaden Reed might have gotten 30 points, and you didn't put him in your lineup. You don't get those points. It's only in your active starters roster do the points actually count towards your total. So that's important to check your lineup weekly. Make sure, and sometimes, Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, you want to check them day of. Make sure that players haven't, gotten injured over the course of the week during practice, or, gotten better. Their coaches or their training staff said, hey, you're good to play. We'll take that, questionable status, doubtful status. Or maybe you're coming off of IR. We'll take that injury designation off, and then you can then put them in your lineup. You can still have questionable and doubtful. You can play injured players on your starting lineup, but again, once that game starts, even though they didn't play, you're stuck with them wherever you've put them. So if I wanted to move, well, let's go with this way: the flex, Cortland Sutton. Maybe I don't want to play him, and I want to play somebody else, one of my other players. Maybe Brian Robinson Jr. He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. Running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers can go in the flex. So I'm going to click on move, and I can move him to any of these spaces. Now, if I want to put Brian Robinson Jr. in here, I can just swap them. I'll hit move, and now I have Brian Robinson Jr. here, and Cortland Sutton is in his place. For whatever reason, if I want to kind of play around with things, because really it's like QB1, RB1, RB2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So it doesn't really mean anything, but you might, if you decide to start paying attention to some of the fantasy experts, they might start talking to you about or they might start saying things like RB1, RB2. And that's just kind of what that means is, RB1, RB2 slot. So some people are kind of, well, Saquon Barkley is clearly the better running back, so I'm going to put him in my RB1 slot as opposed to my RB2 slot. Again, there's no difference as long as he's in your starters. He could be in my flex. Doesn't matter. It's just kind of, preferences. But, so you can't switch Kenneth Walker and Saquon Barkley, but I can put Saquon Barkley on the bench and then Kenneth Walker on the bench. And then I can put, let's see, Saquon Barkley and the RB. Well, yeah, I'd have to put in Saquon for a second. So Kenneth Walker can come up here, and then I can put Saquon Barkley in RB2 slot. So there's really not there's no difference. It doesn't change anything. It's just kind of the order that you like to see them in. Maybe you're like me and you want them in alphabetical order. I don't know. Just they're there. So you can move them to the bench if you wanted to kind of move the lineups around, that kind of thing. So again, these are all just kind of random projections. It doesn't really, mean anything. And if they don't hit that projection, then they don't. That's just what it is. So Terry McLaurin's 13.8. DK Metcalf is predicted 13.6, and then Brian Robinson Jr. is predicted 11.3. I've got some people on my bench that are considered or projected to score more, just like Cortland Sutton. So I'm actually going to move him back, and just because now I have all my highest projected players on my active starting roster, and all my bench players have less projection. I'm projected 124 points this week. And with this starting lineup, I'm projecting this season to have 21, 22 points. Let's see, some other things. Here's the current matchup. So I can click on, I can click on this. And when it's game time, preferably probably Sunday is when you might want to do this, since most of the games are Sunday throughout the day, noon, 3, and 7 or so. or when most of the games are on Sunday. And basically you see a comparison. And here's my players. Here's who they are playing in real life. And then my opponent's players and who they're playing in real life. Obviously, nobody's played, so there are no average points for that player. But the projections are here near the inside, and they're doing a head-to-head. Okay, so they think that Jalen Hurts is going to score more points than Josh Allen, so therefore he has the advantage. They think Saquon Barkley is going to score more than his running back, and actually both of my running backs are supposed to score more than his running backs. But then they've got a advantage on running backs. I'm sorry, that would be wide receiver. Then I've got an advantage on tight end. They've got an advantage on flex, defense, kicker. And basically that means that they have the team advantage. Bench, you can also see bench players to see if there's any players that you could put in or that he might put in that, would change that. All in all, it's fairly close. 9 points is isn't too bad of a spread. Plus, we don't really know how players will do and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go back. I can go back to my team over here. Oh, currently playing 0. So it'll tell you how many you've got playing, how many have to play still. The total projection, and this will change, as the game goes on. Or the weekend goes on, and then how many minutes left of the games that are ongoing or haven't played yet. So you can kind of see, where all those numbers are coming from. Then the projected total for each player or each team is up here. If I wanted to, there are 4 other matchups because 10-team league in this case. I can look at the other matchups and see how other players are doing, that kind of stuff. So I'm going back to my team, click on my name. And up here, we can kind of look at some of the different NFL weeks just to kind of see what our projections are throughout the year. Starting week 5 through 14 is when teams go on bye, which basically means there are 18 weeks in the regular season, and teams only play 17 games. So each team takes a week off somewhere between the weeks 5 and 14. And that's when your opponent is bye. So he will not score any points for me in week 5. DK Metcalf is not playing, and if I leave him on my roster, then he will not score me any points. I'll get 0. I've got a couple players here that are on bye on week 5, and all I would have to do would be to pick one of these players that are not on bye, that are a wide receiver, and I can switch them out. Now the nice thing is with this flex, I can move Courtland Sutton to my wide receiver spot, and then now my flex allows me to pick any wide receiver or running back. So looks like Jameson Williams is projected the most on my bench that week, so I'll just put him in. And this isn't something you need to do right now. I'm just kind of showing this to you. Basically, you'll want to do it every week because Jameson Williams might get injured between now and then. But that kind of thing. So it is kind of a good idea to look through your buys this way and just make sure that, okay, so week 7, Josh Allen goes on bye, and so the Buffalo Bills, and so I have the kicker as well, which seems to happen to me every year. And so Buffalo doesn't play, so it's natural both of them are on bye. I don't have a backup kicker, so I'll have to replace the kicker. I don't have a backup quarterback, so I'll have to pick one up. Probably after the first couple weeks, I'll start seeing, what the quarterbacks are doing, and I'll pick one up. But I've had leagues before where, 3 or 4 of my players, 5 of my players all go on bye the same week. I wasn't paying attention to buys, and I don't have any backups because both of my, all of my starters and all of my bench players for that position are on bye. So, real good idea to keep that in mind. So let's just say we want to look at, oh wow, we don't have a quarterback. Let's see, or a backup quarterback. Let's see what quarterbacks are on the free agency, or as we call it, the waiver. So we can go to add player over here. And again, we've got a bunch of drop downs right here. We can sort by position as well. So actually, we are going to sort by position. So we're going to look at QB. And so this is all the quarterbacks that are available. And they've got the projected points for the season. We can sort if we click on it. So right now, they're suggesting that Trevor Lawrence is going to do the best out of all the players that are still yet to be drafted, or that were not drafted because the draft is over. So let's just say I want Trevor Lawrence, want to go ahead and pick him up. I'll click on him, and I can claim. What we'll do is we'll say interested in, because I'll show you what that's like, and then I go to claim. And we can be interested in Matt Stafford. And let's be interested in CJ Stroud, because CJ Stroud's done pretty well in the past before. Let's see, defense, special teams. So this is kind of fun. I like to put a couple of defenses on my watch list or my interested in list. It makes it easier to find them later. Actually, I've never done some of this on the computer, so I'm not 100% sure where it is. We'll find out together. So we'll just put being interested in the Colts, and we'll put interested being in the Bucks. Okay, you could also put an interest right there or not, and then you could just pick them up right here. We can sort availability. So if you're curious about, I like to check, use this to check, what teams might have or what people might have the best for that position. So I can go to all. You probably can't see the drop down, but it says all available on waiver, free agents, or on roster. So I go to all, and we'll go back to, nope, I want to go up here. We'll go to running back. And so here I can trade. The blue left right means I can trade for somebody. So if I want to try to trade for Bijan Robinson, I can. Actually, let's open that up, and it'll show who I'm wanting for him, and then who I could trade for him. And down here, it'll kind of give us a, well, let's see what happens if I were to say I want to trade Saquon Barkley. So it would trade, and then I believe I don't want to hit continue because I don't actually want to do this, but it might. Sometimes they have like a AI helps you decide if it's a good trade for you or not, and who you should trade for, or who you might want to offer for that player. I don't trade a lot, but okay. Well, I hit cancel trade and it went back. So let's see. Add players. Let's see if we can find that interested in list. Oh yeah. So watch list. You can say on watch list. And so this shows all the players that I've said I'm interested in. This helps you kind of say, okay, I want this player, but I don't want to. I want to watch this player and see how he does before I decide to pick him up. He did well last week. If he does well this week, I'll pick him up. Or I just want to keep an easy eye on him to make sure that he's doing okay. Or you could do this with, let's say that. Well, pro team. Let's see. Barkley was on the Eagles. Why can't I think of what Philadelphia? There we go. Jeez. So we go down to Philadelphia, and we got all these players. We'll actually even go all players. So we have Saquon Barkley. Let's just say that Saquon Barkley is injured. He's out for a couple games, not playing. Let's say that I have Will Shipley, and um, if I had Will Shipley and Saquon Barkley I did not have, so let's say what team is this? I clicked on their name and the manager is RRT. So if this guy, I don't know what is, Russell, there we go. Okay, we'll go back. If Russell has Will Shipley and Saquon Barkley is injured, Will Shipley might be, the workhorse while Saquon Barkley is on the bench, resting up. So you might want to be interested in Saquon Barkley as Russell so that you can easily figure out. You would go to the watch list, you'd say on watch list, and he'd be right there. You can click on his name really quickly. You don't have to search for him every time. It's kind of an easy way to save. And you can look down here. Well, it would be right here in the recent news, and you can look and see what his health is. So is he, getting ready to come back or not? Is he, going to be out for the season? That kind of stuff. That way, well, maybe next week I should not play Will Shipley. Saquon Barkley's going to be back, and he's not going to, Saquon's going to go back to taking his normal touches, and Will Shipley's his workload's going to go down, not going to score as many points. So it's just an easy, faster way of basically saving a player, as well as making it easier to watch what their stats are in case you want to maybe pick them up. And so you can be interested in players that are rostered by somebody else. They can see that, and it kind of makes it so that it's sort of like a hand raise, if you will, or hey, I'd like to maybe trade that player if you're interested. And so they might see that they may not like that player as much or want to do something and go, oh, this other team is interested in my player. Maybe I'll see if if they're interested in trading me for him. So it kind of works multiple ways. But if you are interested in a player, it usually allows you other people to see who else is interested. Here is the league settings. So if you don't know exactly how the scoring works for fantasy, it's a good idea to come here. We can go scoring. For any player that throws the ball to another player, forward pass, you get 0.4 points per yard. A touchdown pass, so if like a quarterback throws if your quarterback throws a touchdown to a wide receiver or running back, the quarterback will score automatically 4 points for throwing a touchdown pass. If he throws an interception, he loses 2 points. And if he throws a successful 2-point conversion, he gets 2 points. That is for every player. So if you have some trick play where your running back throws the ball forward, that's the same points. That would follow the same point scheme. Rushing, 0.1 points per yard, or 1 point for 10 yards of rushing. Usually it's like a running back or a quarterback maybe that would rush. If they get a rushing touchdown, that would be 6 points. And again, if they get a conversion by running the ball, it's a 2 point. In this case, only the ball carrier, since it's a run, only the ball carrier gets points. I'm sure you understand how rushing works. Receiving is basically the same thing as rushing, except that you get a point for a reception. So let's say that a wide receiver, for instance, who will be receiving most of the balls in a game, a wide receiver catches the ball and picks up 10 yards. As long as it's a forward pass, of course. He gets 1 point for the receiving yards, and then another point for receiving the ball, or catching it. So he would get 2 points for that reception, as opposed to the rush points, like a running back running for 10 yards would only get 1 point. Let's say it's a 10-yard touchdown catch. So it would be 1 point for the receiving yards, 1 point for the reception, and then 6 points for it being a touchdown. So you'd get, 8 points. Kicking, again, this is probably just your kicker. You can see just how the points breakdown works there. The more yards, the longer the kick, the more points. Then your defense and special teams. So it's the whole team. If any of the players on the defense that you have get a safety, or if they get a fumble recovery, or a interception, or a blocked punt, or blocked field goal, or something like that, they'll get points for that. Sack is 1 point. So there's all of the different. Oh, and then yards allowed and points allowed. So defenses are kind of weird. When a defense starts playing, you'll automatically get 10 points because they're already scoring for how many yards allowed and how many points allowed. And at the start of the game, the opposing offense hasn't done anything yet. So you'll have, 0 points allowed, 5 points. Less than 100 yards allowed, 5 points. So you'll have 10 points for your defense starting out right away, and that'll fluctuate throughout the game. So it's kind of hard to guesstimate how many points you're going to get on defense. Then you've got some, punt returns, kick returns, things like that, and how those things work points-wise. Okay, so under league, we can go to schedule. You can see each week who you're playing and who else everybody else is playing. Being home or away in this particular league generally doesn't count. There are some leagues that you can have like home team advantage, and basically that means if you're the home team, you get a few extra points to start out the week. That's not, you probably don't, unless you saw that in the points, you don't need to worry about that. So then up here is the projected playoff bracket. In this particular instance, there's only the top 4 teams. In a 12 team, you'll have top 3 teams, or top 6 teams, I'm sorry. And in this case, so this is a little different as a 10 team as opposed to a 12 or more. But weeks 14 and 15 are against the same opponent, and you add both those weeks up to be the total score. So let's say in week 14 you get 100 points, and week 15 you get 50 points. So your total score in this matchup would be 150 points. The winner moves on to the championship game of both of these two. The winners of these two goes to the championship, and then the loser of these two go down to the consolation, and they play each other down there. Everybody else is in the consolation down here, and they still play. So and it'll help decide what position to put you in, whether it's 5th or 10th. So it's still good to go ahead and keep playing in those last couple weeks. Again, there are 18 weeks in the league, and the leagues default to the fantasy leagues default to end week 17. Because a lot of players and a lot of teams sit their best starters on week 18 for the actual playoffs in IRL. So we don't generally play week 18 because the people that do the best throughout the season are probably going to have more players sit on the last week because those are the better players that probably have better teams going to the playoffs. And don't really have as much to play for in week 18. So it kind of makes it unfair for those teams. So the championship game is 16-17. So, but a 12-team league, you'll have 6 players, and it'll be week 15, 16, 17, and you'll play against a new opponent each one of those 3 weeks. Is how a 12-team one works. but you'd be able to see how that is set up here. And then once the season starts and you've got um, points and you're kind of understanding more about what players to play, this will start auto populating with if it ended right now, or the projection of who's going to do well. You'll see names here, and that's just the projection of who they think is going to make it. It's not the actual, just who they think will. Those are the how to manage your team on on a weekly basis. Oh, waivers. I saw that and I did not. Where are we? Basically, team. League. Nope. Players. Waiver order. So under players, it's a drop down again. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Some drop downs you can see, some drop downs you can't. So right here it says waiver order under players. So you can click on that. And this looks like the opposite order of the draft. So Russell was first pick and I was second pick, and so I'm second to last in the original waiver order. So waiver order basically makes it so the people that are doing the worst get the first picks at the waiver players or the free agent players that I was showing you earlier. So every week, starting Tuesday? So I think Monday is the last day for games, Monday night. All day Tuesday, you can, they'll have it a review day, so you can start reviewing players and or review the week. And that's my cat. So you can review how your team did and against your opponent, how other teams did, how players that maybe you were interested in or following, how they did. And you can pick up players on the waiver. Now, the waiver is not going to let you just automatically pick up a player. You're basically going to put in a claim for that player. And Wednesday morning at 3 in the morning or something like that, whenever the waiver actually hits, it's okay, waiver order reset each week to inverse of order standings. So yeah, that's how the order is picked. Basically, so let's just say that I don't remember any of the players that were on the waiver at this point, but let's just say that the Josh Allen, my quarterback, let's just say that he was on the waiver for whatever reason, and all 10 of us put in a claim for Josh Allen. Well, you have to pick what order you want you can put multiple claims in for multiple players. So let's say you put in a claim for, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes, and you in that order. And for whatever reason, they're all on the waiver. Just for whatever reason, this is a fictitious scenario. Let's say that all three of these players, 1, 2, and 3, the position they all three put in the waiver order, the waiver claims in that exact order. Josh Allen, then Jalen Hurts, then Patrick Mahomes. Well, position 1, the team in position 1 gets the first pick. And so their first pick is Josh Allen. So he's going to get Josh Allen. Well, position 2, Isaiah, Josh Allen's already picked, so he can't pick him. So it'll default to his second person, and so he'll get Jalen Hurts. And then third, because his first 2 picks were already picked, Dan will get Mahomes. And then come all the way down to 9. If I had any of those players on my claim, I will not have gotten those players at all. It'll just, if I have a 4th player, it'll try to pick them up if they're available, so on and so forth. Now let's say that team 1 put all 3 of those players on his claim, and no one else had any of those three players on their claims. So it'll go through and it'll claim players in that same way. If no one else has picked them when it gets to your turn, you'll pick them up, and then it'll start over again until all the picks are, nobody has any more picks. So round 2, essentially, it'll start over, same order. So it won't be a snake order, it'll be the same order. So it goes back up to position 1, and this guy gets the second quarterback that he had on his claim. And it goes down through again, and then everybody gets the chance to have, claimed Patrick Mahomes. And if no one else does, then he would get the third pick as well. He would get all 3 of those quarterbacks that he wanted to pick up. So that's kind of how the waiver works. And then the next week, it'll change again based on who, based on the inverse order of the standings each week. And that is the waiver. So I think with that, I don't have anything else to say. This is already kind of a long video, but it's kind of a deep dive, so you know what you're doing. Of course, if you have any questions, reach out to your commissioner. They'll be able to help walk you through it. And once you've gotten a week or 2 in, under the belt, you'll be able to kind of see all this in action and kind of go from there. And it's once you've got it, it's done it a couple times. It's fairly straightforward, I think. Just kind of maybe on the front end, it might kind of seem a little confusing. So, yeah, reach out to your commissioner if you got any more questions. And thanks for watching.